What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah,
okay.
CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need a hit of being traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One Set.
All right.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, there he is. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Hey, Chris.
What's up?
Not much. Me and Jim were talking earlier today. I knew you had a podcast that you started. What was the name of the podcast again?
It's called Dunklevision.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
you said you started that pretty recently too.
Yeah, we started in September of 2021, and we did one almost every month up until like May of this year, just because we were getting ready to do the movie, so I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do like how often do you guys do your podcast? Is it every month?
We do every week.
Every
week?
Monday.
God bless you. That's
Yeah.
I admire the dedication. I wish we could do that. Yeah, that's cool though. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was tough for us to do a month, and I'm the producer I'm the co-host. I'm the producer of the show, so I do all the editing and whatnot. And yeah, and we also use Zencastr, so it's kind of cool to be on the other side of it now.
And you know who told us about Zencastr, because we were using Zoom, we were using Restream or Ecamm Live, a lot of those, and we talked to Matt Kelly. We had a little consultation with him before we actually started our podcast, and he told us about Zencastr, how, you know, just especially with the local recordings, and you know, we've been having really good success with this. And you know, we don't have really there's like a free plan to it, so you don't have to really put any money out towards it. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I really dig it, and yeah, Matt Kelly's the guy to talk to about podcasts. I mean, he's got like 500 podcasts going on in some way, but he knows his stuff. I mean, he's been around, and yeah, I also was on Zoom. We were on Zoom, like I think the first 4 or 5 of our podcasts, and then somebody else recommended, like, hey, it actually was one of our guests said, hey, you guys should try Zencastr. And yeah, I love it. I mean, it's not perfect. It has its issues, but I definitely love the local recording, and, you know, overall quality is better. So.
Right. Yeah. And especially here, because, you know, even if we have like latency or, you know, some type of like bandwidth issues, whenever it, you know, downloads, most times out of 10, you don't get too much of that latency and bandwidth when you get it downloaded. So, and even in post, it's very easy to kind of just chop it up. If there's a very long lag, you just kind of cut into those and just paste it in. So it's very good for post production too.
Absolutely. Are you cutting on Premiere?
Premiere Pro, yeah.
Premiere Pro, okay, yeah, same thing here.
Hey,
this is the pro circle. I love it.
I know, right? Yeah, so I know you and me know each other to a good point, but before we kind of get into the actual episode, we you know, I used to run a podcast called Table Talk. It was more music based. So what I would usually do is I'll bring the guest on like the night before, kind of do like a warm opening, especially for me, to kind of get to know the person and get them a little, you know, introed into how the show's going to go. And, you know, it was mainly just a conversation. And, you know, either we talk music, we talk life, we talk this and that. So, and it kind of worked out, because then when we actually went to shoot the episode, we had already talked for almost like an hour, so that we were already kind of, you know, used to each other. So it made all like the jitters go away and everything. So, like I said, like I know you and me know each other, but I'm not sure. Do you know my friend Jim here?
Oh, well, you know, he looks just like a guy that added me on Facebook today. So I think he does look familiar. Yeah, I don't think we've had the pleasure. Have we met before, Jim?
I think we just knew each other by name, but we didn't actually know each other like that.
Right. Like, I think we saw each other in maybe our friends' comment threads on social media. Maybe that's what it was.
Sure. You graduated at Sun Valley 04, right?
I did. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew you were like a year ahead of Anthony and I. Pardon me.
Oh,
and,
okay. So yeah.
We walked past each other in high school plenty of times, and I was like, and that was it. Like, didn't ever really know you like that, right?
Did you like point at me like that when you saw me walk by? Was that the...
No, I just think you were one of the people that I knew you by name, but I just never got to know you like that. And it wasn't because I didn't want to get to know you. I just think it was like, oh, I know who this person is, and maybe it's the same on your end, or maybe I was just a ghost. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I think, we both probably look a lot different than we did back then. And, hey, at least we get the opportunity to get to know each other now, 20 years later.
Absolutely. And that's, it's one of the most beautiful things about like reflecting and looking back on, your high school times and saying, oh yeah, this person over here, and not knowing them. And now we get to know each other, right? It's pretty cool.
The internet's a beautiful thing, man. Internet and podcasts, bringing people together.
Yeah, man.
That's it.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, I think we've all kind of had, our podcast, talks. So at least isn't like, I think when we had Matt on, we were like, what, Jim? I think we were like maybe a month into our podcast, and, we had Matt on for a little bit, and I think we shot for like 2 hours. And we just we didn't even really cut most of it. It was just a 2-hour podcast.
I think it was like episode 11 or 12. It was early. It was early in.
Yeah, Matt can talk. I know Matt can talk. I love the guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, I always feel now between the two of you, who's the editor? Is that Anthony or is that you, Jim, that does the editing on this?
Yeah, I do the editing.
Anthony. Yeah.
Gotcha. So do you Anthony, you ever try to like hurry things along so that like you have less you have to edit? Because I know I do sometimes with my co-host. Like, all right, let's.
Very rarely. Usually, I think we've always kind of said like, hey, if the conversation is organic and it's something that's just like organically going, we just go. Mm-hmm. I think we usually try to hit our goal of like an hour and 15. But if it goes a little over, then we're fine. We're not going to cut each other off on like something that we're like really, getting into a view about. But we do try to like keep it within a certain time. But yeah, I mean, we've had times where we would edit like a 40-50 minute podcast, and there's times where it's like, oh, okay, this one's an hour and a half, so it's going to take a little bit more time to kind of edit down. And I've gotten to the point where I have like a template for each of the episodes, so all you have to do is just put in the videos and then just change up a couple small things depending on what style it is, because we rarely have guests on, so mostly it's just either us. Sometimes we'll be in person, but it's almost sometimes like an 80-20. We'll mostly be virtual, but then we have like almost every 5 to 10 episodes, we try to get like an in-person episode in.
Sure. Yeah. And you have a growing family too, Anthony. Congratulations on your upcoming edition. Very excited for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
I figured that's why this is the best time for you to chat after 10 o'clock at night. You got the family going to bed.
You got it. Yeah, the wife goes to bed, little guy goes to bed, and that's pretty much time for me to get anything in, like music, talking to my best friend here, and then any other podcast stuff. It's pretty much my time to kind of be like, okay, everybody's down. I got quiet time until somebody wakes up.
Right.
This is his time. It's great. And I'm also a night owl. I'm not an early riser.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ant and I here chat in the wee hours. I mean, between Ant, like 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So this is like why we do the podcast right now. It's just the most ideal. Chris, talk to us about the Delco movie. Let's get into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Delco movie. Okay, boy, where to begin? So the Delco the movie rather, has been a project in the making for 20 years. So about 20 years ago, I saw a movie called Clerks. It had already been out for like 9 years by that point, made by Kevin Smith. Sort of Kevin Smith is the patron saint of indie filmmakers. And so it was kind of at that point, I was like, hey, I could make a film. Like, it's actually something possible to do. I always wanted to write. I thought maybe I'll write comic books, maybe I'll write, novels. But, okay, making a movie is something that is feasible to do after watching Clerks. And so my senior year, I decided, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to write a feature movie, a feature-length film, and I'm going to shoot it and cut it together before I graduate. And everybody said that I was nuts. Like, what are you doing? That's crazy. Why would you do something like that? Why would you do something that big? And I just was very, very stubborn. And I somehow talked about like 10 of my friends in helping me make this movie over about 4 months, from February 2004 to May 2004. So if you ever saw me like running around the hallways with a camera, or like having people after school helping me with stuff, then that's what I was working on. That was the initial Delco movie. And so ever since then,
cool.
I've done. Did you guys ever see me working on it?
I vaguely remember there being times where like people would just be running around with a camera, and I just thought it was like film crew and stuff, like people just doing stuff like maybe like the actual like Sun Valley like film crew and stuff. I didn't think it was stuff that you were actually participating in.
Well, they were doing that too. They were definitely doing that too. So it could have been them as well. But I was actually doing like a full length film, and so
that's awesome.
We screened it in the auditorium. My parents went to AMC, and they got like popcorn and cups and everything. They made like a really big deal out of it. It was totally life-changing. And
awesome.
So since that time, I've done a number of short films. I've done podcasts. I've done projects. I've taught for 10 years as a film and TV production teacher out of high school. So exactly the kind of class that I had that inspired me. And in all that time, I kind of never let this idea go. I'm like, I want to do like a real version of this film. I love these characters. The dialogue is terrible. I was 17 when I wrote it. So let me with my years of experience now, let me, do something that can be like a real movie. And so that's kind of what I wound up doing. So about 2 years ago, and I, for about 2 decades, I had gone through, I had maybe 5 or 6 different outlines of what it was going to be. And the things that always stayed the same were the characters, and that it was going to take place in a day. That's what I always wanted to kind of keep the same, but everything else kind of changed. Kind of whatever phase of my life I was in, the story was very, very different at that time. And so finally, I came up with like a beginning and end that I really liked. And so summer 2021, I said, you know what, it's time. I'm going to write this damn thing. I got to write it out. I can't, I need to stop just thinking about it, talking about it, just write it out. And so how I did it was I said, I had the outline. I knew how it was going to begin, how it was going to end. And I said, okay, it's a summertime. I'm a teacher. I have off in the summer. I have a little more flexible schedule in the summer.
Right.
I'm going to write 5 to 10 pages every night, and I'm not going to go to bed until I do 5 to 10 pages, something like that. Now, I missed some nights here and there, but the bottom line was that by the end of that summer, like I had a rough draft, the first draft of a feature script. And the whole idea was like, a lot of writers edit as they go along. Like we're our own worst critics as creative people, right? And so I had to, no matter how bad it was, and no matter how bad I felt like the stories, how bad the characters dialogue was, or how bad I felt the scene was, I just had to get it out. Like you have to out the first draft. You just have to do that. And that made all the difference, and now I'm on draft 6 of it. So, the editing of it, I mean, a lot of things have changed and improved, but, the first draft is always the hardest part. So then over the last 2 years, I've kind of been prepping for it. And I would say like really began pre-production like in December of this year. So that's when I started like putting out casting calls. In the spring, I met with a very good friend of mine named Leah Savoli, who's a actor, producer, and she also does crowdfunding. And so I had this whole plan of, here's how we're going to raise money for Delco the movie through a crowdfunding site, and it has worked. It has amazingly has worked.
Yeah, crowdfunding has definitely been something that has been totally worth it. Because one of my EPs back in 2015, I crowdfunded, and it was, and I crowdfunded that for almost a fifth of what you guys were asking for, and we'll get into more of the crowdfunding part of it too. But it's definitely something for independent people like us that like don't really have the initial money to get that out. So for like a small guy like me, when I was able to get so much help, I was very, blasting grateful for that to actually happen. So I can imagine how you're feeling right now, because as we're shooting this on Monday the 17th, this is going to be coming out on Friday the 21st. So there's still about right now 5 days that you're going to be still having this crowdfund up, and within this time we've just found out that you had just reached the 30,000 goal, and you've gotten your first stretch goal that was made currently right now. So congrats on that, man.
Thank you. Actually, second stretch goal today. We're at 40,000.
Second, geez, even within the last 24, 36, 48 hours, it's really like just climbed in like miraculous numbers.
Well, thank God for the press, because we were on the front page of the Sunday Times, Delaware County Daily Times Sunday edition, and I want to say we probably made like 20,000 from that. That was when that came in. So, and I, they had interviewed me. Like, I was aware that the article was going to come out. I had no idea it was going to be the front page. Like, that was not.
Now, did you reach out to them, or did they reach out to you for like the actual interview?
So I was actually on a show called Delco Live. I don't know if you guys have heard. Of these guys. Really awesome guys. They do their stuff in person, so I went to their studio, and they were the ones that connected me with the Daily Times writer. Peg DeGrasse is her name.
Awesome.
And it's funny. Like, she actually like writes stuff on my dad. My dad is a musician in Brookhaven, does music charity work, like music education work with kids. And my stepmom is a partner in the organization. It's called Keep Music Alive. So my Peg was very, very familiar with my family, at that point. And so it was kind of cool, meet her and hear all the stories. She's been covering my dad since the 80s.
Hey, it's all in who you know, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you get Miss Shivo and Dr. Frampton wrapped into the movie? Like, that to me, like when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God, it's so cool. Like, I just want to know how you rope them in. But
sure. So I've kept in touch with Mrs. Skyvo over the years, because she was the one that told me that I should be a teacher. I took film as lit my senior year. So the same time I was doing all the video production classes and everything, I took film as lit, and one of the assignments was you had to teach a film to the class. Like you had to pick a film and teach that to the class for a week. And so I picked Back to the Future. So as you can see, I'm a very big Back to the Future fan.
That's awesome.
Like this whole wall over here. Let me turn I don't want to knock over anything, but my whole wall is Back to the Future stuff. But after amazing. The first day, she was like, Chris, you have a gift. You really should be a teacher. And I'm like, oh, and that had never crossed my mind before. And then so I go to teachers college. So that year, Mrs. Skyva retired from Sun Valley, and she started working for Westchester as a supervisor for student teachers. And so I wound up having her again as my student teacher advisor. And so she was the one that signed off on me getting my teacher's license, essentially. And perfect. So, I've kept in touch with her over the years. And when I knew I wanted to add some scenes in the movie. You were going to school for
communications, right?
So I was actually going to school for secondary English education.
Okay.
At Westchester, but I spent all my free time making movies. So it was kind of this conundrum I always had, because I was like, okay, well, sure. I want to do like the communication stuff, but it kind of falls under the English stuff, but I can't stop making movies. What am I going to do? And, I was blessed enough to fall into a job that's like a combination of all of those things, which is really, really cool. So I kept in touch with Mrs. Skyva. I mean, I owe her a lot, to my career, my life. And, when I wanted to bring teachers back, when I started writing teachers into the movie, like I wanted to name them after my teachers. I thought, wouldn't it kind of be cool if like we got the actual person like back and like, just do a couple lines here and there. And, I thought that would be really, really cool from a creative standpoint, but also a marketing standpoint, to get people really excited about, the movie. I was a little inspired by, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you Clerks, but, in Clerks 3, Kevin Smith brought back a lot of the people to play like the same people that they played like in the first one, because the whole thing is like he's recreating the first one. And when I saw that last year, I thought like, oh, that's such a cool idea to get like the community involved and like kind of have like these non-actors come in and say a few lines, and it just gets people really excited. Like, that's something cool to do. So it's like paying tribute to my teachers and just giving something in there for the audience, because we all have memories in Mrs. Skyva's class and Dr. Frampton's class, and we still have a few more we're going to announce this week. So stay tuned for that.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wow, Delco.
Yeah, it definitely seems like you've had this whole thing like really, really like planned out to the T. I was telling my mom, and she was like, there's like, how does he know like this many people? I'm like, well, I think Chris necessarily knows this many people. It's just more the fact that he got like, it's the process of like sharing and people like getting the word out. And, it's just amazing with the way social media is, if you can get a product, and especially with crowdfunding, if you really do a good job of telling people what you're going to use the money for, so people know the security of like, hey, if you're giving me money, this is what your money's going to go to, then that's going to be more successful with that crowdfund, rather than like a lot of crowdfunds that are just like, hey, give me money. That's not really going to be too much of like a success, because like, okay, well, I'm giving you money, but what, because people want something in return for, especially, because you got a lot of good perks that are in there too. And, they're spending a couple $100 to a minimum of a couple dollars, but you got a couple $100 there too. Those people are not just going to give you that if they are knowing they're getting something in return. So I think you've gotten this to the T of like, down to the perks, what you're going to be using the money for, how many days you'll be shooting, what you'll need for those days. It's like everything is marked down, and it's perfect, man.
Thank you, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Leah Savoli, this was we work together on this, but she's an expert in this. And, I can't speak to like all crowdfunding, but I know film crowdfunding, most film crowdfunds fail. I mean, it's very, very common to see, the goals not met. And, it's so important to have a strategy. And she had a strategy from April. We've been planning this since April. And so, this would not be happening without her. She was the one that had said, like, you got to post 5 times a day. You need to do, these gratitude posts. You need to have, you need to go make a new web series called Where's Crispy Wednesday, where you go around Delco and, try make people guess where you are. And so it's a whole, we tried to make it look simple, but it's a very,
it's a lot of behind the scenes.
It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And it's just so cool to see it all pay off, all the planning. So it's very, very exciting.
Well, I do gotta say, you definitely have made it seem really easy, because my feed has just been nothing but Delco movie, people sharing it, you giving the updates for it, and I've been rooting for you this whole month, man. It's been cool. Just like Jim has been saying, I can't wait to see more of the turnout with the movie, more stuff you're gonna be putting out, and it's just cool to see some like a hometown person that we personally know doing something around here too, because we've always said we all grew up in the general same area. Everybody talks Delco, but then when somebody outside of Delco talks about it, no, like Delco is like quote unquote like a way of life. There's people outside like the States and they're hanging Delco flags, for Christ's sake. Who does that?
Delco.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate your support, and I'm also so happy to see your success with the music, and both you guys your success with this podcast. It's just very, very cool. I love that we can root for each other in Delco. There's not really like a competition kind of thing. Like we, one of us does well, we all do well.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, we've all had that time when we were young of trying to be like the number one thing, to be like, hey, somebody's doing better than me. Why are they getting all this? And like, but at this point of our age, we're like, dude, it's all about helping each other out. And like you just said, if one person wins, everybody wins.
Absolutely.
Clip that. That's a shirt.
There you go.
It's about helping each other out and supporting each other. I love that. Like, I can't even speak to it. It's so great that you mentioned that. It's great. Like, Anthony and I doing this podcast, we're just hanging out, having a good time. But we're not out here trying to be like the best podcast ever. It's just, it's Delco, right? We're out here supporting each other, So
yeah, and it's amazing
Absolutely.
that when you like, we're like, Jim was just saying, like, we're just in here every week talking up lifestyle. We're always talking about my music, his dance, and we always love to talk like intersecting our music and dance related lifestyles. And it's cool to see when we have people that come up to us on the internet and just saying like, hey, you guys have a good thing going and this and that. And when we get some traction, because when you first start, it's a very long road to kind of start really getting some engagement. And almost about like technically a year and a half now, we're just starting to see the engagement really be more consistent. And it's been really cool to know that, podcasts are, just that way of life now, that, I know on a daily, me and Jim are listening to almost like 2 or 3 a day, different types of podcasts. And, it's just so fun to know that you can listen to something that's, very serious, something very funny, something that's like really elongated, like a Joe Rogan thing, to something that's very short and to the point, where some podcasts are like 10-15 minutes, where you can get it all hooked in for like in that small amount of time. So
for sure. And you guys are doing the right thing, like releasing the same time every week. Like, it's that consistency. Your audience expects it, and that's great. That's how you build a following.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's talk quickly. I know we were talking about our podcast, but alongside the Delco movie, before we started rolling here, you had your own podcast as well. Let's talk about that. What was the name of the podcast again that you had?
Sure. So the podcast is called Dunklevision with Brian Dunkelman. So Brian Dunkelman is the face of Dunklevision. He was the original co-host of American Idol with Ryan Seacrest about 21 years ago.
Wow.
And so we became friends a few years ago. I was getting ready to do a short film about politics and kind of like a satire kind of thing in February of 2020. I see where this is going. So we were getting ready to do it.
Yep.
And then everything shut down. So I wound up in my movie incorporating a zombie pandemic into my movie. But Brian Dunkelman was in that movie because I wanted the news anchors in the movie, because they're reporting on like this stuff going on. I wanted the news anchors to be played by reality show people. I wanted to kind of do a little meta commentary kind of thing. So we became really good friends, and we like working together. So I was like, hey, let's do a podcast. Let's talk to like creative people, in the industry, like mainly film and TV, but we've talked to musicians as well. And so we've done that consistently since September 2021. We've been having a great time doing it. We've talked to amazing guests. Ours is definitely guest based, and that's kind of why we can only do it like once a month, because it is hard to kind of regularly get guests. But we had on Pat Casey, who's the writer of the Sonic movies. He did a Christmas movie called what was it called? Violent Night just came out. I don't know if you guys saw that last Christmas.
Violent Night. It sounds familiar. Something that we probably not see, because me and Jim are not the biggest like scary movie people, so we probably wouldn't have seen it either, unless it's like a Michael Myers type of like or like Freddy Krueger type, like early 70s 80s thrasher movies, where I'm more of those, but like the suspenseful type of type of things like that are like, nope, I'm okay.
No, this is gory. This is gory but heartwarming. I'll say that. Okay. I think you guys probably would like it. So we had him on. We had Nick Bakay on. Nick Bakay was, he's the executive producer of Young Sheldon. He's probably best known as the voice of Salem the Cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Norbert on Angry Beavers. We had La Bamba.
That's awesome.
From the Conan O'Brien show on. So a bunch of just random people from our childhoods. I try to really play up that nostalgia angle and just kind of really get into people's, get into their heads. Like, where does their inspiration come from? I just thought that's such an interesting way, such an interesting podcast to have. And I figured, like, with the connections Brian and I have, like, why don't we talk to interesting people that, are recognizable, that we can learn from in some way, kind of learn, how to do better art from them.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we always like to talk on here about our passions, again, with music and dance, how it can be related, how, because me and Jim are always picking our brains about like how he sees dance, how I see music. And then we found certain times that we're almost thinking the same way, but we're, because dance is so, like in a physical, like you see it, where music, sometimes you see it in your head and you can't really see music until you're actually having like an instrument or some of sort. But dance is more like you're using your body as the instrument, so it connects, but then you have different advantages of that way too. And when it comes to a passion, it's always fun to see other people talk about their passions and, like you said, where they get their inspiration from.
So I have to ask, when are we getting the Anthony and Jim musical? Because that sounds like you guys have like everything you need for that.
Well,
I mean,
Jim,
December 1st.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean,
or rock opera,
So December 1st is going to be episode 100 that we are dropping, and Anthony and I have not challenged each other, but have basically said, hey, accountability buddy kind of thing. I told Anthony, like, come on, present new content. And Anthony.
All right, guys. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Something happened with Jim's audio and video, so he's unfortunately not going to be able to finish out the episode with us. But I'm still here with Chris, and if you guys are tuning in right now, we have Chris Pierdomenico here, who is the head of the DelcoMovie.com, trying to bring Delco the movie to theaters. And we were, before we got cut off, me and Jim were talking about how our episode 100, we have the idea of the fact that I'm going to write a song and release it for episode 100, and he is also going to be choreographing a piece or two, and we're both going to be presenting our work for episode 100. That's one of the things that we have listed for our episode 100, and we're stoked to kind of just, because I know Jim hasn't really choreographed for himself in a long time because he teaches so much. So he doesn't really get that much time to, do his own creations. So I haven't really seen him, just figure out something for himself in a while. So I'm very stoked to see what he comes up with.
That sounds awesome, man. It's, you guys are both really, really creative people, and it just makes sense that you would collaborate on something like that, and especially for your 100th episode. Congratulations on that. I mean, that's a feat in and of itself. So that's beginning in December. Is that when you're going to have the...
Yeah, December 1st is looking like it's going to be the episode 100 episode. So just like anything, with podcasts, we'll probably batch that episode. We'll probably shoot it and do it maybe, a couple weeks before or a week before, depending on what we have to install for it. So with a lot of our stuff, sometimes we usually batch a lot of things, or sometimes they'll just be the week of. But if we have a couple things we're doing, we'll batch a couple episodes and just be ready for those couple weeks. But yeah, we wanted to kind of get into the actual movie, the Delco movie, and you can, say as much as you want, as little as you want. I know we don't want to give away too much of the movie, but my thing when we were off the air was more, is the movie going to be taking place in like modern Delco was what we are today, or is it going to be, the Delco that we all, grew up with? What was your headspace with what you're going to be doing with the movie here?
Well, I've had a long time to think about it, kind of how I would do this movie. And so, oftentimes the easiest thing to do with doing any movie is like, oh, well, just have it take place in the present day, because you don't have to, there's a lot less that has to be thought out in that case. But I really thought that, as important as Delco is as a character in the movie, I felt the time period was also really, really important. I wanted to do something that spoke to, all my classmates I graduated with. And so, when I did the first movie, it was 2004, so I didn't have to do anything. And so with this new one, it is actually taking place in 2004. And so, that entails, how the characters dress, what's in the background, certainly the technology that, is used.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're going to be on AOL Instant Messenger. They're going to be on MySpace, because that came out. I got a MySpace as a senior in high school. It was like, it just came out. So it's a very different world, 2004. And I think we're kind of to a time now that's nostalgic. That's sort of, we had tech back then, but it was a very different type of tech. And this is a time before smartphones. I think people don't realize how much smartphones just changed day-to-day life.
And especially back in the high school days, we just had cell phones for emergency purposes. It wasn't, you didn't have apps and you didn't have a lot of this, stuff on the phone. It was just mainly a phone to make phone calls.
I know it was such a foreign concept
there
now, but yeah, I remember after 9 o'clock on weekdays, I could call my girlfriend in New Jersey for free. That was like that was a very big deal, back then. So
yeah, absolutely.
There's a magic to that time, and I think that was another way I just kind of wanted to put the audience there. If the audience is me, that was an interesting time in history, and I really wanted the movie to reflect that, in some way. And also, I think today, I think smartphones make it too easy to get out of situations, like from a plot standpoint. So it kind of also helped in that way. That it just kind of helped make, I think, the plot more interesting. And to tell you a little bit about the plot, it is about a kid who has done the right things his entire life, but wants to live one night as a regular kid in Delco. And so his friend, the character's name is Wayne, his friend Jess says, hey, we're going to have you live one night as a regular kid. We're going to break some rules in Delco, but how do good kids break rules? Like they don't know how. And so they kind of fail terribly at it. And so that's a big portion, of the film. How can these mischief makers get in trouble in Delco, kind of all these different Delco landmarks. And, I had some people ask me like, oh, is this based on, on your life? Did you do this? I'm like, no, this is a what if, like what I was the goody two shoes, in high school. And,
Same.
What if, yeah, what if I had done something crazy, one night? And I always think that's a great place to start with stories like, what if this, what if that?
Yeah.
So I certainly have worked in stories from friends that did kind of crazy things that I thought was worthy of putting in a movie, but it's largely fictional. Certainly the location, the characters are based on me and my friends, but the situation is definitely, contrived.
Right.
That sounds like it's bad, but it's I don't know how I divide it percentage wise, but it's the setting is true. The premise is fiction.
It sounds like a good type of movie though, because usually with that type of plot, you would see that coming from like, a bigger, well-known thing, like some place in like, a California type setting or somewhere on the West Coast, like, the class, top A student and this and that. He's like, hey, I've been doing this all year long. I just want one night where I just let loose and just do that. But how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. So, but like it's going to be interesting for that type of concept to be like, in a suburban type of area where, you're doing it in like a Delco sense. So, it'll be like, oh, well, it's not like a Hollywood type thing, but it's like, it's, it can be very, nostalgic to, a suburb type, living. Like, how do you go off the rails in that type of area instead of being in a well-known, like almost, it's not necessarily like Philly, but it's outside of Philly. So you're not really living large in like the big name city areas. It's a very small niched, area. So that's a cool plot. I think it's going to go good for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. And there's this whole other component where the main character, Wayne, is the son of a pastor, and he has to give a speech at the church the next day. And his family wants him to kind of save Delco. We do a lot of like equivalences, like, what's worse, hell or Delco? What's, is being stuck in Delco forever hell? So there's a lot of kind of analogous sort of moments like that.
The plot is just reminding me of a movie, and you can probably help me remind. I forget the name of the movie, but the plot of it was these two, and I'm saying this with, just the fact these two nerdy guys were graduating college or high school, but they wanted that one night to kind of just let loose. And there was this girl, and this one guy was attracted to the girl, but it was, that typical, very pretty hot girl, top of the class, like everybody, looked, and you would never think that she would want to even look at this one dude. And then they eventually, get to know each other throughout the movie. I forget, I have to look it up. And if I don't, I'll tell you off air, but it's almost similar to how your plot is going, but it's still, to the point where I love the scale of where it's going to, because it's very suburban, and something that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a movie like that.
There's a lot of influences in the movie. I don't know which movie you're talking about, but I'm very curious to know what it is, if I've seen it or not.
Yeah, I gotta look it up.
Not ringing a bell. Let me know when you think of it. But yeah. I can say, like, my influences with this movie, certainly like Superbad, a newer movie called Booksmart. There's also a lot of like Clerks inspiration in there, and probably also a bit of John Hughes as well. So a bit like Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of spirit. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up that movie, man. I'll have to tell you off air, and if I do, I'll put up the little movie right in the post when I find it. But yeah, it's gonna be it's bringing me right to that, and I'm gonna lose my stuff when I find the movie of what it is.
It'll come to you at 4 a.m.
It probably will, but yeah, it's just so relatable, and I think with that, the movie is just gonna be so relatable to a lot of different people. So yeah, I'm stoked for what's to come, and especially with you and me and Jim growing up in Delco all these years. I'm looking forward to seeing all the nostalgia, the Delco influences in there, and it's going to be awesome. And so you guys are looking to start filming how soon?
Pretty soon, about 2 weeks from today. We're going to start filming. So July 31st, we're still kind of working out details with SAG-AFTRA for, if we are able to film or not. There's a big SAG-AFTRA strike happening now, and, we completely support, what SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild are fighting for. It's really historic times in entertainment. But it is possible there are some exceptions to the strike where some independent projects may still be able to go on. And so I actually filled out an application for it, just waiting to hear back if we get approved to do that.
Right. Well, that's good. And like we said, at this point, you have already reached the $30,000 goal that you guys already offered. So congrats to you on that. And you've already gotten 2 stretch goals made, and we still have, at the time of this recording, you still have 4 days of campaigning to go to.
We still do.
The numbers are going through the roof right now. So, if you guys want to make a contribution to the movie, we'll have in the description of the video here, the website, delcomovie.com. Make sure you guys go check it out. There's a lot of perks there. And, Chris, do you want to give a little description of what some of the perks they can go to?
So, go to delcomovie.com. We have perks. We'll take you out to Tom Jones. Well, the cast and producers and I will take you out to Tom Jones one day. We will give you
a blue ribbon
t-shirt.
Special.
Blue ribbon special, yeah. T-shirts, there's posters, there's Delco swag. We'll put your business in the movie. I've been getting a lot of those today. Just, when that Sunday Times article came out, like I've had, 5-6 businesses reach out already.
That's awesome.
They keep coming in, which is great. Got their attention. So
absolutely,
a lot of different perks to be, to get involved in the movie in some way. And we're at 40,000. We really need 50,000 to fund all 8 days of filming. So, if you're able to help us get there, we really, really appreciate it. And we want you to be a part of this, especially if you're from Delco. We want you to be part of Delco the movie.
There you go, man. yeah, it's looking to be a lot of fun. And, if anybody, from, our circle of friends, gets to see this, again, make sure you guys, go follow the Delco the movie, contribute. I know the One Set podcast will definitely fully 100% support the movie. And Chris, anything we can do to help you guys out, we'll definitely contribute. But anything outside of the movie, you guys want us to, if you guys are doing any extras, if we can do it, we can definitely, do a little extra work with you guys. If you guys are looking at that, we would love to be, if not part of the movie, have, some type of, part in there to help you guys, because like we said, I mean, we all grew up in the same era, and, we love seeing people that we know winning and thriving in their passions. And, we can definitely tell this is your passion. This has been a movie in the making, like you said, for 20 years. So to see this coming into fruition, and I can only imagine your nostalgic feelings of just saying like, this is really happening, so I'm stoked for you, man.
Hey, thanks so much, man. And yeah, I don't think it quite has hit me yet, but yeah, I'm, and again, likewise, so excited to see you living your dream as well in music and podcasting and everything. And let's stick together as creatives. We'd love to involve you in the movie in some way. I know a guy who can get you some cameo spots.
Cool, man. Yeah, let's make it work. We'll definitely do some stuff. Yeah, guys, again, go check out the DelcoMovie.com. Feel free to contribute.
Actually, DelcoTheMovie.com.
DelcoTheMovie.com. Yes. Yep. The link will be in the description. Make sure you guys go down there and support. Even if you're not from Delco, and if you just love to help out small creators and small films, go check it out. They have a lot of good perks for everybody, and the film looks like it's going to be, a hell of a movie, and let's get it in the theaters, man. So once you get done filming, the next step is to obviously, I guess, try to find bigger people to get it into the theaters. So what do you have a plan for that as well? I'm assuming you do, but like.
Sure. Yeah, I want to. Well, I have a whole lot of editing to do before then, and hopefully, if we get enough funds, we'll be able to hire out a little bit for that. So do some really solid, audio editing and color correcting. But the hope is to do a big red carpet premiere. We will be doing a big red carpet premiere in 2024. I'd say mid to late 2024. I really want to capitalize that on being, exactly 20 years after. I just think it's going to be more memorable that way if we do it in 2024.
Right.
And then I can finally move on from this crazy idea and work on the next crazy idea.
Absolutely, man. Well, all the luck to you. And, like I said, the One Set Bros are fully backing you on Delco the movie. This is going to be a big time to put Delco on the map. And I was thinking of a way to kind of segue out of this, but, you were talking, and we've always said, like, Tina Fey, kind of comes from the Upper Darby area, and, everybody always thinks of her. But hey, look out, people, because Chris Pierdomenico is about to take Tina Fey's spot here. He's about to be putting Delco on the map. It's going to be big time. Delco is going to be put on the map, and everybody's going to be seeing this thing. So make sure you guys contribute. Again, thank you, Chris, for being on the podcast with us this week. And from me and Jim, this has been another episode of the One Set Podcast. Make sure you guys are following us at One Set Pod, Facebook, TikTok. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. We upload every Friday. And if you guys want to hear any, bonus content, you guys can get early access to these episodes. Make sure you hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/onesetpod. Pick up some merch at the Big Cartel store. Help us out. And, we got t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, sweatshirts. Feel free to pick up something and support the pod. And if you guys want to, hit us up on the email, that's onesetpod@gmail.com. So again, like I said, from me and Jim, this has been the One Set Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks so much, man.
Absolutely, brother.